If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, I have Josh. Josh, how you doing today?
As we mentioned before, we started recording here, I have made myself a very lovely, very heavy dinner, and now want to take a nap.
Yeah. No, it sounded like you had quite the feast there.
Yeah. Just like a ton of cheese on top of cheese on top of a cheese sauce, on top of, pasta. It was delicious. It's absolutely everything you'd ever want, but like, it does not promote good conversation or like thoughts. It promotes taking a big old nap.
Well, that's a thing you could go do.
I think when we went over to your place last week, you had it right. Like the Italian beefs, we had a couple of guys over, we had the food. It was rousing conversation, and we kept it going for a couple of hours, and it was pretty good. It was
fun to do that. It's been a while since we got together.
Yeah. I think there was some talk about doing that on a more regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, there is something to be said about meeting in person, whether it's with just friends or with a gaming group. Okay.
Ooh, yeah, I haven't done that in a while.
And neither have I. All my stuff. Again, I'm gaming with somebody who's in a completely different state, so things have to be necessitated the way they are. But when I was living closer to my friend Jared, we would meet in person, and we would Zoom in or Skype in our friend from out of state. So it was like having the same sort of full camaraderie and all that. I guess the topic we're going to be talking about today is actually setting up that space to game in, instead of just like the esoteric topics of like, how do you make something better? This is actually, how do you set up a space so you can promote better gameplay overall?
Yeah, I started writing some notes down on this topic, and I've got, normally, dear listener, I end up with like a page and a half, 2 pages of notes, sometimes 3 or 4 pages of notes, and then Aaron tells me,
I want to throw up every time I see
like, we are not doing that much, Josh. You break it up into other topics, or come back later. I got like maybe a paragraph here, because it's been so long since I've done it like live in person. I have run games in person. We started some games in person before COVID, over 5 years ago. But like since then, everything we've done has been online. And I was just thinking, like, we had such a great time at your place. And we were talking about hanging out and doing stuff. And I just got my box set of Daggerheart. And I would love to run that in person, because it gives you all the little cards and stuff that we could do in person. It could be fun. Of course, I also have all of my new D&D books too, and maybe I've got a problem. But again,
when you listen, collection of role-playing books can be a serious problem depending on how you do it and approach it. But that's a topic for another day, dealing with your role-playing addiction. We will, but in terms of like, if you have the books, so obviously when you're online, you have the medium of like PDFs. You go to DriveThruRPG, get a book. You can do it that way. But when you have the books and you're in person, there's something about all of that. Like I harken back to the earlier days of role playing, when like you're about to like activate a power, you're like, give me the book, and like somebody hands you the book and you're trying to figure out like the most optimal way to like activate your stuff, or like you're pondering something in your off turn trying to think of like, oh, how do I make this rule work or something like that. So it's just a fun little thing, you know, that you get when you actually have the physical tome in your hand.
And I think there is more of a camaraderie in person also, that you've got a couple of people sitting around and you're looking to each other. You're not sitting in your own office and like, hey, it's not my turn, sort of zoning out because we've been playing for a couple of hours and, oh crap, what happened? Oh, everybody's dead but me. Oh, and it's my fault. Okay. There's that sort of thing. You're in person. It's easier to sort of coordinate with each other. I don't think turns take as long in person, or is that just like me losing my
No,
mind?
oh God, no. They take so long. Are you kidding
They
me?
they always take long, but I always thought that they took longer online when I
Every time I've played in person, turns take a long time. Now,
okay.
again, part of turns taking a long time is a function of, you know, you as a GM being able to move combat along and facilitate combat quicker. And one of the things that is nice with online is that you don't have to roll. Okay. There are tricks that you can do when if you don't have a computer with you or something like that. Like there's my buddies who did the DMD podcast, I know that they're not doing the Dungeon Master Dojo podcast anymore. Scott, their like longtime dungeon master, had a great tip in one of their podcasts about pre-rolling 20-sided dice rolls and then like putting them on a chart, basically. So you have like 200 rolls and you just run down the chart, and that's what's being rolled. So you don't have to roll those dice, and that makes things move really, really quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I might, if I could see a chart like that, I might decide when I'm going to do certain things, knowing that I'm going to have a failure or a success coming up. I don't know about that, but anyway, it's a cool idea for speeding things up. I was just thinking that let's say that for some odd reason we decide we actually do want to do another guys' night, have a couple people over, have some drinks, make some food that isn't super heavy and puts us all to sleep. We could play some games. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. So what is you? Okay, so Josh, vision.
Yes.
Okay,
What's my
your
vision?
mind. Okay, explain it to me. What does the space look like?
Okay. So when I first started, like some of my earliest gaming memories are, high school, sitting in somebody's basement, on the floor or couch, no table, books everywhere. There's like a coffee table maybe that we've like rolled dice on, or maybe it's just like cardboard on the floor for a hard surface. Like we're talking $0 investment here, possibly less. Like we may have, been paid to take some trash and just like spread it around. And a lot of it was this theater of the mind. It was great. It was wonderful. But I think, some of us are older now and we need a little bit more comfort. We need a little bit more a dedicated space. And like a room that can be sort of separate from outside influence, outside distractions. It doesn't need to be, a dedicated, this is the gaming room, but just a room that has a door would be great. Or, a basement.
A place where you can be in private, so the game can happen and nobody's going to interrupt you.
Yes. Super helpful because like I said, one of the big problems I have with playing online is distractions abound when it's not your turn.
Mm-hmm.
You can just open up a new tab on your browser and start reading news articles or playing some game or something like that. It's awful. But if you've got the less distractions, the better. It also brings people into a space where they're like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the focus of what we're doing here. And we're all to here together. All right?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I think like obviously you're going to need some sort of table big enough for all the players at the table. I think, having like your players sit sort of facing the game master, or like the game master's at the head of the table and the players sit on the sides, sort of like in a row. Any of that is fine as long as there's a specific area for you to tell your story from, and enough space for each one of the players to have, whatever paperwork or like cards or dice that they're going to need. I think that's all important.
Yeah, I've never actually like regularly gamed like a gaming table. Like when we were doing it in person, it was always like a card table.
Yeah,
like the GM. When I did it with like Jared and Brian, and that we were just sitting on a couch, and there was like a coffee table in front of us that we would roll the dice, or Jared would have his little like side table that he would roll his dice on over there. It was never that complicated. I feel like if you are going to play with miniatures and actually use like dedicated battle maps or draw up battle maps, that's really where the close table like is required, because it's a pain to get up and then walk over that table and try to figure things out. You want to see what's going on at the table.
Yeah, well, you know me. I like my maps.
Yeah.
I love my maps. And I'm okay with, miniatures being various pieces of garbage that I find lying around. They don't need to be like actual miniatures. The map is the more important thing to me. Like, hey, you're the blue piece of lint. Hey, you're the red piece of lint. But I mean, if you're going to be going for this, you might as well like go for it. Spend some effort, put some time into it. And if you're going to put together a gaming space, I think a table is real nice because it is like a focal point. It is everybody sitting around like, hey, once again, we're in this space, free from distractions. Game master sitting at the end of the table, the head of the table, the important spot. And so we look to them to listen to the story and to get directions on where we're going. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly okay with just sitting around telling stories on a couch. Out in a park.
Yeah, again, I think it depends on, your level of I guess the level of like technical stuff that you want to bring into the game that could dictate the space in which like in the way that your players sit. The nice thing about sitting around the table too is there is purpose around the table, that it is game. It's a lot harder to hide things like playing on your phone, and which is a thing that happens when you game in person, okay, or getting distracted in that way. And again, turn order matters in that regard, and then also making sure that you're being very cognizant of the entire table and crew. So you're trying to keep things quick on the rotation. I mean, the most guilty thing that we ever did when we were younger was that our turns took so long. Everybody's turn took so long. It didn't, unless you were in combat. Combat was a little bit simpler, but they still took pretty long. But in like outside of combat, it was like you'd have like 5-10 minute turns where like the players like dancing around doing cartwheels and flipping up every stone to search under everything, and the rest of the players are just sitting there like they're just zoning out. So again, if you're at the table, at least you're a little bit more engaged in that activity. So I think I like the idea of the table. Yeah, you just gotta have a table. I don't think you have to have a fancy table. It's gotta be a table.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Was like, okay, we've got. I had that one table we had played on, which I think was just like an old church table that was getting thrown out. That I like. I sprayed with some of that
The one that
rubberizer.
used to be in your basement.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I got
yeah.
like it was a perfect table for trying stuff on, but like that rubberizer, spray on rubber,
Mhm.
just made like anytime you had like printouts or paper or anything like that, it stuck to the table more than it was easy to get up. It was awful. I don't know what's wrong with that. So don't do that. Um, and I've got kitchen tables and I've got other like wooden tables, and they're fine. But I've seen those fancy spend a stupid amount of money on them specific gaming tables. Have you seen these?
Oh yeah, and I've seen like gaming tables, like for
Mhm.
like role playing games. And again, there's a reason why there's it's part of the hobby. There are people who have a desire for that for their groups. I I tend to believe that you don't need to go that far, but you know what? There are dice towers to roll your dice in, and then it spits out your dice at the bottom of them. Okay, like
Yeah,
there's all sorts of things like that, and it's like you don't need any of that stuff to do it. But when you get down to budget, they're very cool tables. Don't get me wrong, I've seen them. They're really cool. That
yeah. I think my buddy Derek got one, but it's not for tabletop RPG. He's not like playing D&D uh, or some other game. He does it because he does board games, like serious war games or stuff like that. And because of that, he needs a space to set up large maps and set up all the miniatures that are in the arrangements they are. And those games can last, from a couple of hours to a couple of weeks. I know of one game that ran for a couple of months. And anytime you're going to have that, you're going to need a specific place that's going to be, you know, sequestered away so it doesn't get bumped. You can leave your pieces out on it. It's got one of those like the actual. There's like a lid where you can use it as a table and pull the lid up. It's got a sunken area where you can put your maps and have your dice and stuff like that in.
that's one of the bigger features of them is having
Yeah,
a secondary. So I'm like literally just looking at a couple right now to kind of get a price range for them. I think like the cheapest ones are like $300-400. I'm probably not searching very well here, but still, the idea
that's
is that the table is it's like buying like a foosball table. It's designed for something specifically. It's recessed. It's they've got to be large enough to accommodate a bunch of people, and then is it going to be modular? Is it foldable? Like yeah, think about
yeah.
all that.
Well, and I mean, I think if you're like running a game shop, you're obviously going to have a couple of nice gaming tables. If you are running a game in the back of like a comic book shop or some other place where you're going to have people on a regular and they're going to be spending money there, yeah, that's a great idea. And if you're going to be doing this at home and you've got like a budget that you've put together, we're going to spend some money, we're going to make a gaming space. Um, then it's not a terrible idea to get a fancy gaming table, especially if you do it in person frequently, but you don't need it.
Yeah, and typically the person that would spend to get the gaming table is going to be the one who you're probably going to be going over to their house
Yeah.
to do gaming.
That forever game master, that person who never gets to play their own characters.
They get to play all the NPCs.
Oh, okay, fine. They get to tell all the stories and do all the prep work and yeah. But I think
All their
that
game master sins. So,
if you are going to be setting up a table, have space around the whole table so people can move around it. So it's got to be table set basically in the middle of the room, right?
Mhm.
You need enough space for your game master to have their stuff, and they can sit behind it and have your GM screen. What about GM screens? Do you use them?
I've known GMs who just roll it out in the open, and I know GMs who want a GM screen. I am a firm believer in having some way to separate yourself from the action of the game. Okay, the player should not be able to see all the your tips and tricks and everything to it. Okay, I'm not saying that the GM screen. Okay, I understand if you've listened to this podcast in the past, Jared was a staunch believer. The reason why the GM screens exist is so the GM can cheat. Okay, that's how he would always refer to it. But it's not just that. You don't want the players to see every move that you're making. You don't want the players to see the roles. There's a level of suspense associated with the GM screen that is there. There's a bunch of notes about like the story and things that, if you as a player were to see it or catch an eye of it, like it drastically ruins the experience. So like, it's just not a good idea. It's the best way I can put it is like think of a video game or a movie or a show that you really like. Okay. And imagine if you just like opened up a new tab on Google and you didn't do a search or anything, it just popped up a spoiler about that show, movie, or whatever. It's just and now you forever know what it is, to come. And so it cheapens the experience. It's akin to you cheating. It's like, in that regard, especially
Yeah.
if it's something that relates to the story or direction of the game. Like, you don't want to. You want to hide that from the players. You want the players to figure it out. It's part of the fun of the experience.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of doing all of my roles in the open. Like I try not to hide any of the roles that I've got or what I'm doing, but I will roll things and not tell the players what I'm rolling. That's always fun.
Again, so you're obfuscating what you're doing.
Yes, but not. I'm not cheating. I'm just not telling them why I'm rolling. Sometimes I just roll just to be rolling, just to keep them on the toes. But having a place where I can keep my notes that they can't see. Okay, here's the notes on the map. Here's where things are on the map. Here's the next stages. If I did have miniatures, I would always keep my NPCs and monsters back behind it so I can access them. And it's a great place to keep just like quick rule guides, like those like, hey, if we get into a situation, what is the rule for jumping? Like, how far can somebody jump based off of their stats? That's a great thing to be able to pull up every now and then, especially if your players are bunny hopping around your map. But I think that if you need just a ridiculous amount of space behind your screen, you may have overprepared. I think a binder or a folder with your notes and like one or two printouts for your maps if you're going to be using them, and a couple.
You don't need to keep analog. You can
No.
do digital. You can pull up your laptop behind there, and
I like
that
paper
holds a
'cause
lot more stuff and organizes things.
I can put notes and stuff in it quicker. And then otherwise I'm typing and stuff. I don't know. If I'm going to be doing it in person, I like analog. I understand digital. I live my life digital. That sounds awful.
Listen. After a while, when we married the concept of being in person and adding a digital component to it, it was pretty great. It also it helps if you are not going to have this table that you're going to sit at.
Mhm.
Okay, if your maps are digitized, so everybody can see the map, like you're using like a shared whiteboard or something like that, that allows you to do that. Now, again, you run into the same problem that we talked about at like the top of the podcast, which is people can open up tabs and get distracted. Like the analog does help limit those distractions. It helps you keep you focused here in the game. But I'm just saying that those are those are things that can alleviate the need for some of these other these other things. It also depends on your gaming group. Analog is the ultimate. You can go in with literally nothing and produce something.
We did talk about maps, and you just said, the shared maps, the digital shared maps. So I was thinking about this. I've done a couple of different ways of doing maps in person, and it's been a while. And I've seen a lot since then of people using, like, have you seen this? Where they take an old TV and they stream a map onto it, but they have the TV laid out into the table.
I have not. I've seen things like that. Like, again, you're now talking about gaming tables, and like I've seen people like, they mount their TV in the table face up, and then they cover that, and so you have the surface above that, and then you've got the maps displayed on that TV.
Yeah, I think that's way too much work.
Again, if you're handy and this, like, you got an old TV and you're like, okay, well, I'll throw that in here. Like, have at it. Yeah, it's a fun experience, but totally unnecessary.
Yeah. I mean, it is really cool. And you can, pop up not just a map if you got that, but also like, like handouts or flyers or like in-game things that you want everybody to display, but you're not going to like print out a dozen copies of them. It's just going to be like, hey, look, here's a wanted poster that you find in the town, and it displays on the screen there. It's a cool concept. But once again, you're basically just doing the same thing that you do online. You're just doing it in the middle of a table where...
Again, you're using technology to facilitate a better experience when you're at your home game. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The goal of gaming is to try to make the best, most fun experience for everybody who's sitting around at the table. Mm-hmm. Okay? And when you're in person, you can have a great experience that's just everybody's got their notebooks. You've got like a whiteboard. I don't know. Maybe you just have a one of those like rollout whiteboardy type rolls.
I've got a couple of those battle maps. You use the
a dry erase marker.
Dry erase. Thank you. Can't remember a word. Saved my life. I got the dry erase rollouts, and they've got a couple of different textures on them. And I like them. Once again, as a concept, you do have to flatten them because they will curl up on you if you don't like lay them out beforehand, and that's ridiculous. And if you don't get the right dry erase markers, you leave smudges everywhere, and that's once again just nitpicky stuff. One of the things that I liked about maps in an online space has always been that the computer can do like a line of sight thing. You can build walls into your program, and it can be like, okay, from here, this is what you can see. And so you can have a whole dungeon in one map. Mm-hmm. And your players, they only see what their characters can see, what their characters can literally see from their vantage point, or, where they've been. And if you do in person, doing printouts and putting out like a map with printouts, you're going to have to like, cover parts up, or this is the only room you're in. And it gets less immersive because, there is that level of abstraction. And I like the concept of doing the battle maps because you can draw it as you go. But I don't think that that's really a big concern if you design your encounters and your game the right way. You can do a lot of a dungeon in Theater of the Mind and just lay out maps for places where there are encounters or puzzles or something that's going on. And so, like, yeah, you've wandered through the dungeon, you've made this turn, you've made that turn. They can sit there like old school with some graphing paper and draw out the map as they explore it, and so that they've got a map, and that's fun too, right? Mm-hmm. And then those rooms where there's an encounter, you can lay out a battle mat so that they can go and place the characters around and run through the encounter and figure out what's going on. And I think that is the more interesting way to run a dungeon, because having your players, map it on their own keeps them engaged. Means that they're taking notes on the situation. They're looking at it, they're sharing it, they're like working through where they're supposed to be. There's, those old stories about like Gary Gygax running these things and the players realizing that there's a space in the map that they haven't explored because they've mapped all around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go looking for the secret and find their way into the treasure room. I think that's a great fun thing that's happening in a live space, in person, rather than, the things just being shown to you as you wander through, and you're sort of guessing because you look at it, just what's being handed to you.
Yeah, again, there's something to be said about having the entire visual of the space in front of you, and it gives you more thought as to what you want to do, where you want to go, and it maybe is you're right, it's less organic, but at the same time, it's it does offer a different type of gaming experience that you don't necessarily get in a home game. I mean, again, you can still do that online. It's just that it's less. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just less. It's less of that immersion there, where you're seeing it, you're like, well, something's got to be over here, something's got to be over there. Like, I mean, like there's a little bit of like, because when you're doing it online, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, something's over there. Okay, I should go check that out. But when you're actually seeing them in person, you start to say it out loud. You start going, oh, something's over there. Like, we should go check that out. We should go. Like, everyone kind of sort of like, strategizes based on what they see in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. So we've got a table. It's in the middle of the room. It can or cannot have a whole bunch of features on it. Don't worry about it. At the head of the table, you need your GM space. I like having a screen. A piece of cardboard, a couple of books. There's some games that come with a pre-built GM screen. You can buy really cool ones at gaming stores or like from woodworkers and stuff like that. Going to the Ren Fair, they sell them there too. They're great. Find yourself something. Keep your notes behind. Either use digital or paper. Either way. Maps out front in one of a dozen different ways, or you can just do theater of the mind. I think, I'm just popping this in my head. All of the screenshots I've seen of, or like the pictures, the whatever of these gaming spaces, they're always done with like this like low light, like it's a dim space. Don't make it a dim space. You gotta read.
No, you don't. You want the table to have good, ample lighting, especially when you get to our age and your eyes start to go.
You gotta read, man. There's a lot of reading in games.
Is that the medium is delivered through a lot of written word, especially in those rule books. And if you are if you decide to put your table around candlelight, good luck to you.
Like, okay, now what you could do is to keep the moodiness. Is it can be a dark or dim room as long as there is focused lights on the table itself. So the table can be bright in a darker room, and that gives you the mood. But once again, you're talking about wiring up specific lights on a table in a way so that your players can have a mood. Now you're talking about like putting some real budget into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have designed your own gaming room only for gaming, and you're probably spending way more than a couple $100 on a table at that point. But yeah, sure. The lighting should be good. You should have good lighting in the room because you are going to be reading.
Good
Okay.
lighting will save almost any game. I'm going to bring you to a game that has nothing to do with tabletop gaming. Remember we played that game Hanabi with you, and
Oh God, yes.
your
I
light
am so sorry.
your light was so bad that the white color and the yellow color and the green color looked identical, and you couldn't tell them apart. And finally, you went and changed the light bulb, and like the whole room illuminated. You're like, this is a totally different game.
Yeah. Well, because we were playing at my dinner table. And my dinner table, I've just got it's one of those like
It's an Edison light that you've hung with like.
yeah. It's just a light that is designed to look cool, but not be super functional. But like you're sitting eating dinner, the lighting doesn't need to be. You don't need bright white lighting when you're eating food. But you do when you're looking at colors or trying to read. Like the better the light, the better the game is going to be. And you're absolutely right. That's a great example. Yeah, the lighting should be good. So beyond that, the only thing I can think of would be, let's say this is now a gaming space. This is the room specifically for your gaming. So I don't say that you're spending, thousands of dollars on a table and a intricately carved Game Master's screen out of, I don't know, some sort of exotic woods and the bones of animals that have long gone extinct. But if you are going to have a gaming space, you probably want to decorate it a little bit. Plain walls are going to be just kind of boring and draw you out of the actual what's going on. You could go and do like, a paint job, make it look like a tavern, put up some wooden planks to make it look like, supports and all that other fun stuff. But honestly, and this is something that I've run into quite a bit with my wife, those like home goods stores, like At Home or even Marshall's. This time of year, this pre-Halloween, starting at like the 5th of July and going until whenever Thanksgiving actually starts, they are chocked full of spooky stuff, but also like dragons and cool sconces and candelabras and like witches and symbols and posters and stuff like that have all this great ambiance, and they're super cheap. You throw a couple of those things up there and it can really like give the room some mood without breaking the bank. Also, grab a couple of bookshelves, because I've got a ton of role-playing game books here.
Again, if you're going to have that room, you might as well put all your books on display so they're available.
Yeah. Well, because
why'd you buy all of them if you didn't want to display them to all your friends during a gaming session?
I mean, I would also think that during that same game session, somebody's going to ask a question, and you probably should have the answer to it. It should be in one of the dozens of books that you've purchased. If it isn't, and you've got to look it up on your phone, why'd you buy all those books, buddy?
Sounds like another book you're going to buy.
But yeah, some bookshelves. If you're doing tabletop games in a room and you got a table and you got all this stuff, you got the lighting and you got the ambiance and you got the space and your players are ready for it, you don't just have to play tabletop games or like role-playing games. There's other tabletop games you could play. The board games, the card games. You could have a whole thing out of it. This is now a dedicated gaming space.
Yeah. No, again, you get it. Yes, the gaming space that we're talking about is describing how to set up a tabletop role-playing game. But you're right, you can role play anything else. If you're a poker player, this also will double as a good place to play poker.
Yeah. The dealer and the game master have a very similar job in the fact that they usually win in the long run.
Yes.
Okay, what about crazy stuff?
What about crazy stuff? What crazy stuff are you talking about?
Smoke machines.
No. Okay, see, so this is where, again, the last little like sub. So I'm gonna give you a little tour behind the curtains here. Okay, the last little subsection that Josh wrote like a minute before we started this was the budget section. And I think we've highlighted budget as we've gone through all this.
Mhm.
But you broke it down to a few distinct ways to put it. No money, okay, just like totally analog. You probably don't even have the table. Okay, you just got a coffee table or something. You're sitting around couches. Okay, a few bucks. So maybe you've got a table. Okay, maybe a GM screen. You've added a couple little props or whatnot here and there, and then you wrote unlimited budget.
Yes,
okay? Which is a vast divide from a few bucks.
Well, I think that's the okay. Let's talk about budget real quick. Yes, no money. Obviously, we'll be sitting around a couch, coffee table, whatever
whatever
got already.
Got. Okay.
Whatever you got, but you still go and you go to a specific room, away from traffic, away from other people that might be doing things in the house, and good lighting. Bring your books. Have a space for the game master. Have a space for the players. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to like build anything. You just have to make sure that that's in whatever space you go to. If you got a couple of bucks, yeah, setting up a room doesn't have to break the bank. It can just be move a table in there, put up some decorations, make sure the lighting is good. And that's probably what I would do. But Aaron, I want to know, if you had an unlimited budget to make a gaming space, what would that look like?
I don't know. I got no idea. Yeah, I'm not gonna recreate what's his name? Joe
Montagnes? Montagnes?
No.
Joey Jojo's?
Joe Janello. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Name. What's his name? From True Blood.
Yeah, yeah. He set up his like gaming space. It's like a recreation of like Gary Gygax's like original gaming table, or like some facsimile of it, and it's like it's beautiful. Like,
yes,
I'd love to, I'd love to have something like that that's super cool. I'd also love to have like a faux movie theater in my house, okay? But yes, these are things that, one, I don't have the space for, and two, I don't have a budget for. But if I were going to do this and I was going to have people, I wouldn't do it unless I was going to have people over regularly or something like that. I would definitely set up probably like a 6 to 8 person table of some sort somewhere. Probably rounded around the edges. You could then sit somebody in on the if you want to do like poker or something like that, you could sit somebody in the middle, and then you could have people surrounded as a dealer and their players, or you could even do that for gaming. That's a way to do gaming. Or you could do head of the table, people around the table from there. But allowing people to interact with it. And then, I like the idea of being able to mount, a TV below it. And I think that it'd be really cool if you were going to do gaming. You really wanted to make like a hobby table. I'm not this crafty, but maybe someday I'll make a foray into it. I'd probably put together like tablets or something there that could interact with the table, or like what I'm displaying on the table. So that way you could potentially move, like, you don't have to have miniatures anymore at that point. You could have digital pieces that you're still moving on the table, but you're not like not necessarily taking away from like the experience of having it there, and then you can still roll things, or you can put miniatures on the table and stuff like that. Because there is a disconnect there if you have like the TV separated, that you can't see the piece like physically on the board, and so sometimes it's a little funky. But
Yeah, I do like the concept of, like, we talked about maps as printouts or drawing it on a sheet, but that whole, like, the battle environments that they build for Critical Role, where it's got multiple levels and it's got, like, walls and stuff. That's great for seeing the miniature move around.
Mhm.
To see, like, oh, I'm going into this space, and they've got like the tacky so they can put it up on walls or run up stuff or whatnot. All of that sounds great. I don't think, like, if I had the unlimited budget, yeah, I'd probably just, take a basement and load it up. I
it'd
don't
be
think
fun
I'd
to
need.
load things up. It'd be fun to
Yeah.
put like a unique sound system down there and be able to play your music as you go through. Like, it's a lot of things that you could do. I mean, and again, tailor it to the stories you want to tell and the stuff you want to do. I don't know if I would go crazy decorating it and cast everything in red velvet, but if that's your jam, have at you.
Yeah. No, I think that a gaming space needs to be tailored to make sure that you're able to tell the stories you want to, that your players are comfortable, and that it is accessible. So you can read it, you can move inside of it. That it's just a place that you can focus on gaming.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent.
Anything else you want to add to this one, Josh?
Yeah. What do you think about a basket where people throw their phones into before the game starts?
Perhaps a Faraday cage that you could then throw all those phones into so they can't get any. Not, honestly, what you need to do is you need to, do the pre-flight, turn off your phones, put them on airplane mode, or, silence your phones. Don't take them out on the table. Obviously people have things that they need to attend to. So, I wouldn't ever probably really get rid of people's phones in case they have to like answer a call from we're all married. I've got kids, you've got kids. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, Josh, you have to get rid of your phone.
Done. Hey, Lori, I can't answer my phone.
Maybe you're looking for that level of escapism. Yeah, God forbid there's an emergency you got to attend to. Things happen, but just explain to players, don't put your phones away, or if you absolutely need to see your phone, if it's relevant to like you have to answer like phone calls or something, then like take them and like put them in front of the GM screen. So if you get like a call or something, it could be attended to. It can hand you your phone or something like that and say, hey, your wife's calling and she's probably needs something. So.
Well, I think that covers everything about setting up the space of play. I know I have like a 30-page set of notes on what is the proper snacks that you're supposed to bring to a game, but we can do that another time, okay?
Yeah, I'm not gonna whatever Josh's Woodman creations, he finds the day. You find the worst and most unique stuff at that store, I swear. So,
Yep.
we'll go through what's on your snacking table next time or another time. But that's going to wrap us up for the week. If you have thoughts on playing in person, what you like to do in like a setup or something like that, let us know. levelupyourgaming@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. The podcast is also on YouTube, so you can smash the like button there, subscribe there if that's your listening medium. Otherwise, go ahead and subscribe to your favorite podcasting site, review it, recommend it to a friend, all those good things. And that'll wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.